Hello viewer, the Nameless Scholar here, and welcome back to another Age of Sigmar lore video. And today's topic is the cities of Sigmar. The cities of Sigmar are essentially metropolises that house the free people of Sigmar, populated mainly by humans. However, it also does have elves and dwarves living in it. They are the underdogs, for they are no stormcast or the like. They are normal men and women who fight for their right to live. The cities of Sigmar make the bulk of Sigmar's armies. When a free city declares a Dawnbreaker crusade, they do so over key strategic locations, whether sites of geomantic power or a place with abundant natural resources. The cities will be escorted by Stormcast Eternals, and once the settlement construction is underway, they will go to the front lines to prevent anyone from attacking the newfound city. If they return, the colonists will be filled with hope that they still retain more manpower. Once the settlement starts growing, dwarven architects and masons will employ realmstone-driven industry to raise more sophisticated defenses, and when the time to build outward comes, a new wall will be raised and older artillery positions will be moved to the new limits. All the while, the escort of Stormcast Eternals watch over the city. Every city of Sigmar has its own culture depending on where it is located in the realms. Some of the citizens are actually from Azir, while the others are what are called the Reclaimed, who are the descendants of other realms that fled during the Age of Chaos. There is enmity between these two groups, as when the Realm Gate Wars established the free cities, Azirites also settled in with the Reclaimed. This enmity was also the cause of many a settlement falling in the future. Aside from Azerite and Reclaim, depending on the realm, there can be more than just humans in a realm. For example, in Chamon, dwarves are more common, while in Hyash and Ulgu, elves are more common. In the former Lumineth, while the latter, the Daughters of Cain, are more prevalent, whereas in Ghyrin, the Sylvaneth are more prevalent. In the big cities can even be found skink embassies who bring the plans of their Slann overlords to the Wormbloods. How the cities of Sigmar recruit is to give their citizens a particular coin. This coin is called the coin Malleus. The coin Malleus can be taken most commonly from the military if you want to volunteer, and customs dictate that the coin Malleus must always be taken voluntarily. To the point, this is used as propaganda. Those who take the coin Malleus are depicted as brave citizens who are doing their part. Those that do join the Free Guilds join out of many reasons. Some join for they believe that duty is its own reward, while some are there for the spoils of war and glory. Because should they survive, they will have a right to own a plot of land at the settlement that will be founded. Some do it out of sheer revenge against those who destroyed the homes of their ancestors, especially against the force of chaos. Some of those who take the coin Malleus take it to become penal soldiers, because when the sentence of your crime is death, it is not a choice at all. Games Workshop, to show the rework of their city's range in the setting, has actually written lore to explain what had happened. After the Era of the Beast, during the Battle of Glossmet Akshi, the forces of Hammerhal Aqsha were fighting the Cruel Boys. It was led by a free guild marshal by the name of Braithwaite, and after casualties from environmental factors, the army was severely weakened, and among the casualties was Braithwaite himself, who died to a barbed harpoon. And at that point, the mercenary captain by the name of Tahlia took command and did a counterassault that broke the Cruel Boys upon their anvil. She ordered the Crusades' carts, wagons, and palisades to be taken apart and used as raw materials, and commanded her troops to make themselves wooden shields and portable barricades. The handgunners would use the shields of spearmen as firing rests. After the Cruel Boys were defeated in battle, Vedra ordered the same defenses to be carried as far as to their target as possible, and after weeks of grueling battles of attrition, the Dawnbreakers settled the Silvery Nexus with great success. This was what began the Tahlia Reformation, where the entire doctrine of the Free Cities changed due to how successful it was. The news first went to the Academy Marshal and then to Azirheim, when the tactic named Castellite Formation was approved, where the Dawnbringers essentially became walking castles where they carried their battlements and cannons that could be primed and loaded in mere seconds. Because of this, the forges of the Free Cities started manufacturing in accordance to the Reformation. The Castellite formation has been so effective that a far greater proportion of crusades have reached to their destinations than ever before, even if a lot of those strongholds and settlements were destroyed during the Vermindum in the recent lore. Once the site is secured and the flag of the city is put atop the highest ruins, every man, woman, and even children are put to work to build walls, mixing mortar and building. Those who die of exhaustion are either thrown into a ditch or to leave a ruin to ensure they at least do not hinder those who are still alive. When all work is done, aside from sleep, everyone is given a 3-hour rest. The life in one of the Free Cities is difficult, to say the least. Every single city of Sigmar is a mini empire of man of its own. The constant paranoia is ever present, whether an invasion will be around the corner at any moment, or because there's likely a Skaven infestation underneath it. Now, add the fact that all of them are essentially fantasy megacities from Judge Dredd, it makes it all the more uncomfortable. However, it is not as bad in the Free Cities than in megacities or any hive world, because unlike a certain sci-fi setting's main faction, the cities of Sigmar is not described as the cruelest, most bloody regime imaginable. Even if Age of Sigmar is grimdark, its nature as dark high fantasy allows such leeway to exist. But even then, going from a hive city to a cities of Sigmar is like going from a piece of crap to a polished turd. Instead of going in a clockwise direction, I will start with the two realms that Sigmar's Tempest broke the strongest, Aqsha and Ghyra, and then move on to the free cities in the other realms. Starting with Aqsha, where Sigmar's Tempest broke the strongest, is the free city which we know the most about, Hammerhal Aqsha, and its twin located at Ghyra, which is Hammerhal Ghyra. Hammerhal is called the Twin-Tailed City for this very reason, because one side of the city is located at Aqsha, while the other half is located at Ghyra in English. They are codependent on one another. Neither can survive without the other. Ghyra relies on Aqsha's industry, while Aqsha relies on the resources of Ghyra, mainly things like foodstuffs. However, Aqsha is the melting pot in all of the realms, for it is the jewel of Sigmar's empire, aside from Azirheim. In Aqsha, one can find temples dedicated to Cain, skink embassies are present, fiery slayers as well as Karat-run overlords can be located at markets seeking mercenary work, and even Sylvaneth can be found here, even if the climate is rather hostile to them. Because of the locals, Hammerhal Aqsha has a tradition of militarism, where from the criminal in the slums to the richest, all take the coin, and with the live fast and die fast mentality, death rates are particularly high. You are considered lucky and an elder if you reach your 40s, for crying out loud. Of all the cities we know about Hammerhal Aqsha's history the most, to the point Hammerhal Aqsha could possibly get its own video, but I don't think it would be long enough. So here it is. The Stormrift Realm Gate was once known as Gork's Maw, and it was a stomping ground for green-skinned tribes that had grown big and strong from the Age of Chaos. Only 30 Stormcast Eternals assaulted the Realm Gate, and tribe by tribe they fell. When the site was secured, the construction began. Those who did the construction raised the Stormkeep by the name of the Perspicarium to stand guard over it, It is a golden edifice of soaring towers and the headquarters of what is essentially the first storm host and of Hammerhal Aqsha. Hammerhal Aqsha became the foundation of every other free city to come, and afterwards began an ever-aggressive expansion to turn Hammerhal Aqsha into an industrial powerhouse. Their industrial might is so grand, all of the factory districts in Hammerhal Aqsha could make a lesser free city, which these industries are all owned by dwarves who have a monopoly on it, which leads to them also having political power. The part where the Realm Gate is located is known as the Old City, whereas the rest of Hammerhal Aqsha are essentially slums, a labyrinthine maze of grey buildings that make up the sprawls of the Bright City. Beyond the sprawls are the borders of Hammerhal Aqsha, fortified by walls and eternally burning fire oak. And last time, Hammerhal Aqsha had sustained severe damage from the Vermin Doom, when the Great Horned Rat unleashed its hordes of chittering vermin upon the realms, especially onto Aqshi. It was an apocalyptic event that the storm host of Aqsha lost, because some spiteful people who only bought Skaventide to use the Skaven half of the set for Old World. My jab at the salty fantasy veterans aside, there are two more free cities to cover. The reason why is that in the beginning, there used to be 4 free cities located on the Great Parch, but to celebrate her ascension, Morathi has annexed Anvilguard and renamed it Kuron, forever drawing the ire of the city's storm host, Anvils of the Heldenhammer. This has increased the tension between Sigmar and Morathi, which both sides have tried their best to keep the peace. Even then, resistant movements are quickly crushed in Kuron, and the storm host has attempted to retake Anvilguard from Morathi before the skirmishes, waging a guerrilla war against the supposed Oracle of Cain. With Anvilguard or Kuron out of the way, there is Tempest I, founded by the storm host of Tempest Lords. Where Hammerhal Aqsha stretches outwards, the Tempest's Eye stretches upwards, where it is practically a hive city, filled with docks and hangars for the Caradron overlords and the city's production of gyrocopters. Tempest's Eye has a close alliance with the Caradron overlords, so much so that the combat doctrine of Tempest's Eye is one of rapid redeployment, being mobile while shooting their enemies from afar. The reason for this is that they seek to dominate the air for one reason: to be a bastion against the locals, of course. Tempest's Eye is located at the north of the Cool's ravaged peninsula, the south of which is filled to the brim with Khornate worshippers, which is where the most feared Lord of Khorne, by the name of Kogos Cool, fought with his Gortide brethren against the hammers of Sigmar Stormhost during the Realm Gate Wars. He lost against them a few times, but many a Stormcast met his end against his blade, and his Gortide armies have decimated almost every stronghold that have ever been established on the peninsula. However, the Blades of Khorne are not the only army that Tempest's Eye has to worry about, as in recent times. Skaven! The damn rats can fly now. They developed air blimps and started attacking the city. Yeah, that happened. However, Tempest's Eye was built as an impregnable fortress city that was to be a bastion of sanity against a flood of blood and guts. In its governance, the Tempest Lords play an integral role. In the Grand Conclave of Tempest's Eye, no edict or law can be passed without the permission of both the Lord Castellant and the Lord Celestant. These two also have a permanent seat in the Conclave. Hallowheart is the third free city in Aqshi. It is another hive city that was built upon a crater that was once infested with Tzeentch's eldritch abominations. This spire city has long walkways that lead to mining camps and excavation sites. Hallowheart particularly mines Emberstone, which uses it to fuel its industry. The Collegiate Arcane has a vast influence on the city because the winds of magic are particularly strong in the pit they find themselves in. It is so strong that it can border on being hazardous. Whether it is the lingering Tzeentchian influence or the constant extraction of Emberstone, we do not know. Because of this, mages tend to make up most of the members of the Conclave. Mages of Hallowheart are so powerful that they are known to turn the tide of battle with their wild and potent magic, which can also be very detrimental to them as well. Whereas Hammerhal Aqsha is practically a metropolis-spanning sweatshop, Hammerhal Ghyra at first seems like its total opposite, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Hammerhal Ghyra, as much as it is called the Garden of the God King, is essentially a miniature agri-world. Its lush, arable land is used to grow crops and to feed its sister city Hammerhal Aqsha, but hey, at least the air is clear. That aside, Hammerhal Ghyra, despite being more focused on agrarianism, is equally as militant as Aqsha is, and despite being located on the Realm of Life, and is home to Sylvaneth grows, even in Ghyran's industrialization is particularly low, it still seeks to tame nature and impose its order upon it. However, the free city that has taken industrialization and the taming of nature to a new level is Greywater Fastness, located at the north of Verdia. So further north of them are essentially Nurgle-corrupted hills and forests. To protect themselves, the environment is exploited to fuel an industry that could be on par with Hammerhal Aqsha to support their combat doctrine of overwhelming firepower, either with Fusiliers or Iron-Weld Great Cannons. For how the location the city is located became an arid wasteland is that they unleashed the full array of Greywater's black powder to completely annihilate a besieging Chaos army. This brazen destruction of nature has drawn the ire of the Sylvaneth, particularly a fearsome figure known as Pale Oak. Sigmar and Alarielle try their best to prevent the Sylvaneth from declaring all-out war on the city, even if Alarielle is practically discontent with Greywater Fastness. Just like how Sigmar had to bite the bullet when Morathi annexed Anvilguard, Alarielle had to bite this bullet as well. However, the tension between Sigmar and Alarielle are not too tense as they are with Sigmar and Morathi, as the only major city on the continent of Thyria is the Living City, which symbolizes the pact between the God King and the Everqueen. Alarielle raised this city from the lands of Ghyran itself, after the Hallowed Knights and a force of Sylvaneth defeated Clan Morbidus there. Its walls are of iron oak, and spires of stone. It is a haven for both humanity and the Sylvaneth. It is where nature and technology melt together, to the point the armor of the Free Guild soldiers have a greenish tint to them. The city is full of adept scouts and woodworkers. Taking a page from the Sylvaneth's book, they can traverse through forests and other hidden paths like ghosts, which allow them to be more tactical, specializing in ambushes. And finally, there is the Phoenicium, which considers itself a hub of culture in Ghyran. Its walls are shaped from the ancient amber that erupted from a volcano from nearby. It didn't erupt with lava, however, but with sticky sap which hardened afterwards. To the point the houses of the first settlers are still visible in this amber. Because the volcano is described as being titanic in size, and they simply founded a new city atop the old, which is mainly inhabited by the humans and elves. There actually isn't a lot about the city, aside from their worship of a god beast known as the Phoenix, alongside Sigmar of course. Now I move on to the other free cities that other realms have, starting from Excelsis, the only free city on Ghur. The sole reason as to why Excelsis was not devoured by the very land it was settled upon was due to the arcane insights of a giant piece of stone that is stuck in the sea that is named the Spear of Malice, which is a giant fragment of the world that was. The stone that comes from the giant landmark called Glimmerings is the currency of the city. Excelsis has seen a lot of battles, the most brutal of which being the Siege of Excelsis, where the Free Guild armies and the storm host of knights Excelsior had to defend itself against a plethora of enemies. The Siege of Excelsis deserves a video dedicated entirely for itself, because of that I will not mention it here, it's just too long. The denizens of Excelsis are opportunists and survivalists. They are hardened, and survival of the fittest is their mindset. They tame hostile beasts of burden to help them in expansion, and their biggest export to all of the other realms is meat. Meat is so common in Ghur that anyone with enough wit can get their hands on it. Whereas the combat doctrine of Excelsis is that they use beasts in battle. Even their cavalry steeds are not horses, but razor-toothed carnivores that sooner or later catches up to its prey. Yeah, only in Excelsis, my friends. Only in Excelsis. Chamon houses the free city of Vindicarum, which is a hub of Sigmarite faith. Zeal is the culture of this free city, and its culture comprises of hymns and arias dedicated to the God King. Its armies comprising of religious fanatics. The reason for this fanaticism is because a while back, the storm host of the city, the Celestial Vindicators, purged 75% of the population to squash an uprising. Some say that Tzeentch caused the civil war, while others say that it was Sigmar's will. Whatever it is, Vindicarum is a city of faith and conviction, and a little bit of fear. And ever since Alariel's Rite of Life post Necroquake, some of the gargoyles came to life. Some say that they are attracted to the scent of faith. Some say that they are manifestations of the realm's anger. And some believe that they are chimeric creatures tied to the incarnates. Probably all three of these are true. All that is known is that they have a hatred of chaos and demons, which are why they are tolerated in the cities, and some Free Guild regiments of Chamon use them as mascots. Then there is Lethis, the beacon of Sigmarite light in Shyish, and the constant thorn in Nagash's side. Lethis is a city of undertakers and the superstitious. Talismans and amulets are made by the thousands, which just look like generic old charms. However, ever since the Necroquake, it has been proven that they work, so a Bloodgeist won't kill you in your sleep. What makes Nagash particularly hate this place is that the people of Lethis worship another guy aside from Sigmar, a native god of the dead by the name of Morda, which is depicted as a black raven. So much so that the leaders of the free guilds that are not wizards are always priests of Morda. Last time Nagash attacked Lethis, he allowed the escape of Mortarch Katakros from the storm vault of the city, which is implied that this will one day return to bite the city in the ass. Unlike 40k, where things do happen and nothing becomes of them, I actually believe something will become of this. I hope it does. But as you know with GW, hope is the first step on the road to disappointment. From one gloomy place to another, on Ulgu is the only Sigmarite city on there, which is Misthaven. It is a city that is entirely based around the Navy, and the Dark Elves of this city, particularly the Dreadfleets, hold strong positions of power. However, I believe that it will be a matter of when Misthaven will be decimated when Malarian returns. And I think it will be explained that Malarian holds vast power over Misthaven, essentially. Just like how Teclis and Tyrion have power over Settlers Game, but I am getting ahead of myself. Misthaven is the Wild West of the Free Cities, as the city attracts unsavory people, and oftentimes they mock the idea of Azerite laws being forced upon them. To the point, not even the city's own storm host, the Celestial Warbringers, care about low crimes committed such as theft. However, Misthavn still has its own Free Guild regiments to protect itself. Will protect themselves using stealth to cover ground, oftentimes moving in the shadows of their homeland or otherwise. Even with this, Misthavn goes by the City of Scoundrels and the City of Thieves, because that's generally how the people of Ulgo are. So you are either a kleptomaniac or a schizophrenic, or you're just like the Wild West of Immortal Realms being like this. Then there's finally the Settler's Gain, or Yuloraijen, where human and light elf live together as harmoniously as they can. The city is shaped like a wheel, with the elven districts at the heart of the civilization, surrounded by the districts inhabited by humans. This is a social experiment by the twin elven gods, where one of the cities of Sigmar are practically governed by the Lumineth, with them making up the majority of the conclave. Anyone who speaks out against this are putting crystalline sent to the Ministry of Love to show how great Settler's Gain is. Yes, totally. That aside, Settler's Gain is a hub of culture that booms with light magic, trade, literature, and philosophy, protected by the Free Guild regiments that fight together with the city's storm host of Tempest Lords and the Lumineth of the city. Before I start, I will not be covering the dispossessed or the elf allies that the cities have, because it is only a matter of time they will be retconned out of existence. Just like how the city's wood elves were. This will make my job slightly easier too. And I will be covering Tahlia Vedra on her own video. Starting from leaders, most Free Guild regiments are led by Free Guild marshals, whether on foot or on horseback. They are seasoned veterans that rose through the Free Guild ranks and have excellent skill with their weapons and tactics. With the Tahlia Reformation, the marshals on foot always have relic envoys with them, who send out the marshal's orders to nearby troops that he personally cannot attend to. There are also high members of the Free Guild, which make up the Free Guild Command Corps. One of these high-ranking officers are called Archknights, who are essentially the mortal champions of the Free Guilds, and by extension Sigmar. Then there is the Great Herald, who holds the regimental banner, who bring hope to the Free Guilds onto the battlefield, and make sure that they march in good order. The Great Herald sounds the charge, the timely retreat, and the advance. There are War Surgeons, who do surgeries on wounded in the middle of the battlefield. There are Whisper Blades, who are spies and information brokers for the Free Guild regiments, and they not only do Black Ops, but also purge ranks of any dissent. In fact, Whisper Blades are how Misthavn's Free Guild regiments are kept together. Finally, there is the Soul Shepherd, who calls upon the dead to aid the Free Guilds in their time of need. These Death Lectors are also the guardians of the dead, making sure that their souls are safe from the clutch of the great Necromancer. There are battle wizards you might know, such as Jade Wizards or Bright Wizards. However, something tells me that they will be replaced by more over-specialized units such as the Alchemite Warforger. This smith and wizard is a master of metal magic, whether melting the pointy tips of enemy spears, making the enemy armor so heavy that they will get crushed under their weight, or infusing the blades of their allies with fire. The Alchemite Warforgers literally carry a portable forge with them at all times, with that cauldron of theirs, which the letters they wear protect them from the worst of the heat, with the hot cube they hold being the catalyst of their metal magic. And there is also the Fusel Major on Ogre Wallhulk, which comprises of an ogre which is paid with food, particularly with meat, in exchange of working with the Free Guilds, with a crow's nest attached to its back. In the crow's nest is a gunner. This was invented in Greywater Fastness by one eccentric Major Dochawa. What happened was that when the ogre stood up upon command, it allowed the gunner to shoot down a horde of buffed up crocodiles. Upon the success, this also spread to the other free cities as well. Now, the relationship between the gunner and the ogre is rather uneasy, as ogres usually don't like it when they are ordered around by a thin piece of meat that could be in their stomachs right now. Aside from a contract of ogre gets meat, he carries thinling, there could be at least a lost bet with said thinling, or the thinling could have saved the ogre's life and sees this duty as a life debt. When a bond does grow, the ogre becomes a vital asset in construction. It can drag, say, a cannon or a wagon if the need arises. However, it is in battle that the duo excel at. The ogre provides defense in close quarters combat, while the major can order his troops and pick off weak targets from his crow's nest. Now on to the bulk of the army. Before I begin, I want to start by talking about the combat doctrine of the Free Guilds. Not only do they have the Tahlia Reformation, which turns the army into a living fortress, but they are always, and I do mean always, fight with allies. Whether the storm hosts of the respective city, Lumineth in the case of Settlers Gain, Sylvaneth in the case of the Living City, the Daughters of Cain in Misthavn, and so on. The whole point of the cities is that the Free Guilds and their allies have to make up a well-oiled machine. Otherwise, everything falls apart. The bulk of the Free Guild infantry is formed by the Free Guild Steel Helms and the Fusiliers. The Steel Helms are the universalized replacement of the old, as they have a different purpose: to hold the line and to stave off enemy forces as the Free Guild Fusiliers and the Ironweld Great Cannons shoot down the approaching enemies. The Steel Helms are always accompanied by musicians, which are also their standard bearers. Alongside that, a battle priest that carries a holy relic to battle at all times is also present. These battle priests provide morale for their comrades as well as spiritual guidance. They are led by their sergeant-at-arms who keep the unit in one piece. However, they tend to be the most scarred by war as well. They'll have bad quirks and habits, such as being a tippler, or being a gambler, just doing whatever they can to cope with the hell they've gone through. The Free Guild Fusiliers are comprised of disciplined men and women who form a literal wall of shields with guns and fire away at their enemies in perfect unison the moment the Fusil Sergeant orders to fire. Then they fire again and again and again, leaving nothing but devastation. Some of their guns will be single-barreled while some have triple-barreled guns, depending on the Fusilier unit. They also have a standard bearer among their ranks that will keep the flag up while also firing away with his weapon. Meanwhile, there can also be black powder squires who can be ordered by the Fusil Sergeant to bring back more ammunition to them. The Ironweld Great Cannon, on the other hand, is the replacement of the old batteries, manned by men and women with the discipline and coordination to quickly reload. The munitions inscribed with litanies and the cannons themselves are thrice blessed. These artilleries are a key part of the Tahlia Formation as devastating war machines. There are also the Wilder Corps, which are essentially the scouts of the Free Guilds. They are hunters armed with crossbows, with hunting dogs as companions. They are the special forces that scout ahead, take out key targets as their hounds harass the enemies, and they are the ones that save civilians the most. Among the units that are of Free Guild origin are the Free Guild Cavaliers, which are a replacement of the old Pistoliers and Outriders. Now armed with shields and melee weapons, they are the hammer of the Free Guild that breaks the enemy, while the Castellite is the anvil which they are broken upon. A Cavalier is not a noble status, but a status of pure merit, as only those with exceptional skill can join the ranks of the Cavaliers. They are battle-hardened and are not afraid of sacrificing themselves in battle, to the point they would willingly ride to their certain deaths against much more intimidating enemies such as Blunt Knights, and that is just one example. With the Free Guild units covered, the only ones left are the Dark Elves and the Dwarves of the Free Cities, which, let's be real, will be retconned anyways. At least the dwarves will be heavily altered while the Dark Elves are shelved for the future coming of Malarian. But this is going to be it for this video. I am the Nameless Scholar, and Iron Within, Iron Without.